medrash. It's a medrash, and it needs to be understood. I think even deeper than that. So let's talk about that for a second. There's 2 points that you made, Calvin, which we have to address. One of them is that, well, the way you said it was that in essence Abraham received the Torah, which it's an interesting idea. We do have sources in the Gemara that suggest that all of the forefathers of the Jewish people kept the entire Torah. What exactly that means is difficult to know, because the actual laws themselves and the technical details of the laws themselves were not given until the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. So it could be, I'll give you an example. You might remember from the parsha that deals with Jacob's breeding of the sheep of the flock, that he places these rods in front of the sheep in order to get them, let's say, stimulated in order to procreate, and that the rods themselves, according to a piece in the Zohar, he fulfilled the mitzvah of tefillin through this. So what we understand from that is that if they kept the entire Torah, they didn't necessarily keep it in its current form, but they might have been able to accomplish the specific, for lack of a better word, tikkunim that are brought about by mitzvot. And we don't know necessarily what each thing does, each particular mitzvah does, but we know that they do create some form of spiritual rectification in this world. And in the case of Jacob, he would not have had to have actually laid, leather boxes on his arms and on his head in order to fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin, because here we're talking specifically about a type of spiritual rectification. Rectification of what? Ultimately, the rectification of the sin of Adam HaRishon. Okay? But he was able to do that through these rods, whereas today we have no choice but to do it with tefillin. And even if the forefathers kept the entire Torah, they kept it as B'nei Noach, which means to say that in a voluntary capacity. And that means that they can start and stop at any time. That when the need arises, they can suspend particular mitzvot, or that they can do them in any which way, which their own spiritual perception leads them to. They don't have to do them in any, let's say, within any specific parameters. The way once the Torah is given at Mount Sinai, that's not an option anymore for people who keep Torah and mitzvah. Okay, that's that first piece about the idea of Abraham being weaned into it. The next idea that you mentioned was a medrash that says that before Hashem gave the Torah to the Jewish people, he took it to all the nations of the world, and they all rejected it. But let's understand the medrash in a more expanded way. If you look through that medrash, and at some point we probably will, you'll see that every time Hashem offers the Torah to any of the nations, they ask him, what's in it? For example, he takes it to the B'nai Ishmael, okay, the descendants of Ishmael. Will you accept my Torah? And they ask, what's in it? Because, obviously before you sign on the dotted line, you want to know what you're signing up for. That makes perfect rational sense. So Hashem says to them, Lo tigzol, thou shalt not steal. Why did Hashem say that to the B'nai Ishmael? Because our sources indicate that the B'nai Ishmael have a specific problem with theft. that they are particularly predisposed towards stealing, that's part of their culture, that's part of their mentality. I'm not making any statements about people in the world today, but I am giving you the straight dope from the Torah about how it looks at B'nai Ishmael. So when they ask what's in it, Hashem specifically chose the thing that's hardest for them, and they rejected it. And when he took it to the B'nai Esav, Esau's children, they said, "What's in it?" And he said, "Lo tirtzach, thou shalt not kill," because murder seems to be one of the worst and most common predilections of B'nai Esav, and they rejected it. And then Hashem took the Torah to the B'nai Israel. Will you accept my Torah? And their answer was, Naaseh v'nishma. We will do it, and then we'll understand. They did not ask what's in it. Why not? Because as far as they were concerned, if you are Hashem and this is your Torah, it might say stand on your head every other Tuesday. It doesn't matter. We accept it because we know where it's coming from. And for that reason, they received the Torah. Because they had the emunah, they had the faith to trust that whatever Hashem was giving them was good. But then we have to ask the questions. Okay, God, like if you're going to sell this thing to people, imagine you're a car salesman, and a customer walks into the showroom, and he wants to see this model, and you say, yeah, it's got this problem that the headlights, blink and go out every once in a while, and it doesn't get very good gas mileage. I mean, what kind of salesman is that? Person's gonna turn around, walk out of your showroom, and go to the next showroom. Why specifically show them what's difficult about it? Because the question is not simply, will you take my Torah? Will you take my Torah? Will you take my Torah? It's, are you willing to be transformed by this thing? Are you willing to overcome your natural tendencies to become the person that I want you to be, that I've laid out in this Torah? So in order to determine that, Hashem said specifically, when they asked what was in it, he told them the thing that's going to be hardest for them. Yes, you're going to have to get over even this thing that seems so natural to you. Are you willing to be transformed? Other nations viewed that as just too much of a challenge. That was what distinguished B'nai, according to this measures, that is in mentality what distinguished the B'nai Israel from everybody else.